Tonight's story is called Hansel and Gretel. It's a fairy tale by the Grimm's brothers, and it's a story about a little boy called Hansel and a little girl called Gretel, whose daddy married another lady when their mummy died. That was their stepmother, and their stepmother didn't want Hansel and Gretel to be there because they cost too much money because of all the food they would eat. So the story as it goes, I'll tell it to you in full in a minute. I'm giving you the shorter version now. So the stepmother asks the father to take the children to the wood to lose them. So they get lost, but when they're lost, they come across a witch's house made of gingerbread and candies. And then after that...
No, just tell the story.
Okay, just tell the story. But long and short of it is, the witch captures them because she's going to eat them, but they kill the witch, take the witch's treasure, and go back to their daddy, who's very happy to have them back, and he gets rid of the stepmother. Are you ready? Are you ready for the story?
Yeah.
At the edge of a forest lived a poor woodcutter and his wife, a spiteful woman, and their 2 children, Hansel and Gretel.
But why is the water rushing down?
That's a different story. They were very poor. That means they have no money. So there was often very little food on the table. One day, there was no food at all. Everyone went to bed hungry. Have you ever been to bed hungry?
No.
You've always got food on the table, don't you? Yes, you do. That night, Hansel heard his mother tell his father, "Husband, there are too many mouths to feed. You must leave the children in the forest tomorrow." That's what the stepmother said.
Why?
Because there's too many mouths to feed. She doesn't want to feed the children, so at least they have some food for themselves. "Wife," said the father, "I cannot abandon our children. There are wolves in the forest." That's what the poor woodcutter said to his wife. But the wife made him agree to her evil plan. Hansel felt his heart grow icy cold. But he was a clever boy, so he slipped out of the house and filled his pockets with shiny white stones. The next morning, they all rose early, and the children followed their father deep into the forest. Now, what do you think Hansel's going to do with the white stones?
Drop them.
He's going to drop them. Do you know why he's going to drop them?
Because to find his way home.
Exactly, he's going to drop them so he can follow them to find his way home. So the next morning they all rose early and the children followed their father deep into the forest. He lit them a fire and told them he was going to gather wood, which wasn't true. He was going to go home. And he said he would be back to collect them. He left them, tears falling down his face. He's crying because he's leaving his children. The day passed slowly. Hansel kept the fire going, but when night fell, it grew very cold, and they could hear all kinds of rustling under the shadowy trees in the dark. Gretel could not understand why their father had not come back to collect them. So Hansel had to tell her that their mother had told the woodcutter to leave them there deliberately. So the mother had told the woodcutter to leave the children in the middle of the forest. She obviously hoped they'd get eaten by the wolves. "But don't worry, Gretel," he said. "I will lead us back home." And in the moonlight, he showed her the line of shiny white stones that he had dropped. He showed her the stones he had dropped from his pocket, lying on the path, showing him the way. They were there, and they followed the stones one by one. They were soon home, where their father greeted them with great joy. But their mother was not pleased.
Why?
Mother doesn't want them.
Why doesn't want them?
Because there isn't enough food for the children.
Maybe stepmother's house angry.
Also, the children had been a bit naughty sometimes, so the mother didn't want them anymore. Because they'd been naughty.
Oh, yes.
But Daddy wanted them anyway, their daddy, the woodcutter. Even if they were naughty. So they were soon home, and their father greeted them with great joy. But their mother was not pleased. Some time passed.
Hansel and Gretel.
They managed to survive in the house with very little to eat. But another day came when Hansel heard his mother demanding that the woodcutter leave them in the forest again. And when Hansel went to collect some more pebbles, he found the door locked and he could not get out. In the morning, their father gave them each a piece of bread and led them even deeper into the forest than before. All day long, Hansel comforted Gretel and told her that this time he had left a trail of breadcrumbs to lead them safely back home. So the same thing happened. The father lit a fire for the children and told them he would be back. But they waited and waited and waited and waited and waited until the night, and the father didn't come back. So when the moon rose and it was night time, the children set off to go home by following the breadcrumbs. But there was not a single breadcrumb to be seen. The birds had eaten every last one.
Why?
Birds eat breadcrumbs. There was nothing to do but to go to sleep and wait until the morning. The next day, they walked and they walked, but they saw nothing but trees. And the next day after that was the same. Now, they were very cold and they were very hungry. By this time, they were not only cold and hungry, but they were also very frightened. It looked as if they would never be able to find their way out of the forest. But just as it was getting dark, they came to a clearing. A clearing is a place where there are no trees. And there stood a strange little house. The walls were made of gingerbread.
And also candies, gummies.
The windows of fine spun sugar, and the tiles on the roof were brightly striped sweets. And I bet there was many other things like chocolate and licorice and chocolate cake and meringues and all sorts of things.
And also those delicious things, I ate 2 of them. Like those delicious things I ate.
Oh yes, I forgot the little cakes with chocolate in the middle. That's what the house is made of. It's made of all sorts of delicious things that children like to eat. Hansel and Gretel could not believe their luck, and they were soon breaking off bits of the house to eat. Then a little voice came from inside. "Nibble, nibble, little mouse, who is that eating my sweet house?" Who do you think that is saying that? Who do you think's saying, "Nibble, nibble, little mouse, who is that eating my sweet house?"
Again.
Nibble, nibble, little mouse, who is that eating my sweet house?
Again.
Okay, somebody inside the house saying those words. Then came a little voice from inside. Nibble, nibble, little mouse, who is that eating my sweet house? Nibble, nibble, little mouse, who is that eating my sweet house? All right. And then out of the front door came a very old woman. I think it's a witch. She smiled sweetly at the children and said, "Dear ones, you don't need to eat my house. Come inside, and I will give you lots to eat, and you shall sleep in warm beds." That sounds good, doesn't it? They must be very cold and hungry. So the witch is inviting them inside to give them a meal and a nice bed to sleep in. What a nice witch. Most unusual. Most witches are very evil. Let's see if she's good to the children like she promised. Hansel and Gretel needed no second asking. They were soon tucked up, warm and full of hot milk, ginger biscuits and apples. What a nice witch feeding them. They both fell asleep quickly. Little did they know that they were in worse danger than ever before. The old woman was a wicked witch, and she had decided to make Gretel work in the kitchen, and worst of all, she planned to fatten Hansel up so she might eat him. The very next morning, she locked poor Hansel in a cage and gave Gretel a broom and told her to clean the house from top to toe. In the evening, the witch fed Hansel a huge plate of chicken, but she only gave Gretel a dry hunk of cheese. No, of bread, not cheese. But once she was asleep, Hansel shared his meal with Gretel. That's once the witch was asleep. Hansel shared his meal with Gretel. And so they lived for many days. The witch could not see very well, so every morning she made Hansel put his finger through the cage, like this, poking his finger out, so that she could feel the finger to tell how fat he was getting. But clever Hansel poked a chicken bone through the bars, so the witch thought he was still too skinny to eat. After many days, she grew fed up and decided to eat him anyway. She asked Gretel to help her prepare the big oven to cook Hansel. The witch made some bread to go with her supper, and when the oven was hot, she put it in to cook. That's the bread she put in the oven. When the bread was ready, the witch asked Gretel to lift it out to cool. But Gretel was clever too. She pretended she couldn't reach the tray, and when the witch bent down inside the oven, Gretel gave her a great shove, like this. Pushed her. Gretel gave her a great shove and shoved her inside the oven and closed the door. And that was the end of the witch. Let's hang on, I haven't finished the story yet. Gretel released Hansel, and together they set off once more to try and find their way home. After their adventures, fortune finally smiled on them, and they soon found the path home. Their father was simply overjoyed to see them again. And what, you might ask, of their mother? What do you think she said?
I don't know.
Well, the poor woodcutter had not had a happy moment since he left the children in the forest. He had become so miserable that she decided there was no living with him. The day before Hansel and Gretel returned, she had upped sticks and left. That served her right, didn't it? And that's the end of that story. What are you after, my little boy? You're looking for a different story, are you?
Yes.
There's a lot of stories. It's quite hard to find the one you want. We'll stop this one and read a different thing.
And the 3 little Billy Goats. This one. 4 little Billy Goats.
Okay, we'll carry on then with the 3 Billy Goats Gruff. Second story tonight. In a mountain valley, beside a rushing river, there lived 3 billy goats. One was very small, one was middle-sized, and one was huge. And they were called the 3 billy goats Gruff.
3 Billy Goats Gruff. Gruff. Why is Gruff at the end?
I don't know, but that's what they were called.
The 3
Every day,
Goats Gruff.
every day they would eat the lush green grass by the river, and they were very content. One day, however, the 3 billy goats Gruff decided they would like to cross the river and see if the grass was any greener on the other side. The grass was actually no greener, nor was it any tastier, but they all felt they would like a change. First, they had to find a way to cross the rushing river. They trotted a good way upstream before they found a little wooden bridge. After a supper of lush green grass, they decided to wait until the next morning before crossing the bridge so they settled down for the night. Now, what the 3 billy goat Gruffs did not know was that under the little wooden bridge there lived a very mean and grumpy troll. He could smell the 3 billy goats Gruff, and he thought they smelled good to eat. So, the next morning, when the 3 billy goats Gruff had eaten a breakfast of lush green grass, the troll was hiding under the little wooden bridge. The troll was waiting for his chance to have breakfast too, and what do you think he'd like to have as breakfast?
And a Billy Goat.
The billy goats Gruff, yes. That little wooden bridge does not look too strong, said the very small billy goat Gruff.
It's him.
I will go across first to see if it's safe. And he trotted across the little wooden bridge. But when he was only halfway across, the mean and grumpy troll leapt out of his hiding place. Who is that trotting across my bridge? He roared. I am going to eat you up. But the very small billy goat Gruff wasn't ready to be eaten, at least not just yet. So he bravely said to the mean and grumpy troll, You don't want to eat a skinny, bony thing like me. Just wait till my brother comes across. He's much bigger. And with a skip and a hop, the very small billy goat Gruff ran across the bridge to the lush green grass on the other side. The middle-sized billy goat Gruff started to cross the little wooden bridge. But when he was only halfway across, halfway is about there, the top of the bridge in the middle, the mean and grumpy troll roared at him. The troll roared at him. Who is that trotting across my bridge? I am going to eat you up. But the middle-sized billy goat Gruff wasn't ready to be eaten up just yet either. So he bravely said to the mean and grumpy troll, "You don't want to eat a skinny, bony thing like me? Wait till my brother comes across. He is even bigger." And with a skip and a hop, the middle-sized billy goat Gruff ran across the bridge to the lush green grass on the other side. Now, the huge billy goat Gruff had been waiting and watching all the time. He smiled to himself and stepped onto the little wooden bridge. Now, do you think he's going to be eaten?
No.
I don't know. Let's see what happens. But this time, the troll was very hungry. It's lucky the billy goat Gruff is so big, because if the troll is hungry, he's got something big to eat. Let's see what happens, see if he eats him. By this time, the troll was very hungry, and he was even meaner and grumpier than before. When the troll is hungry, he's especially mean and especially grumpy. The troll didn't bother to hide, but rather the troll stood right in the middle of the bridge, looking at the huge billy goat Gruff, who came trotting up to him. "Who is that trotting across my bridge?" he roared. "I am going to eat you up." "Oh no, you won't," said the huge billy goat Gruff, and he lowered his head, and with his huge horns he biffed and butted the mean and grumpy troll into the rushing river. Here he goes into the water. Splash! The water carried him far away down the river, and the troll was never seen again. The 3 billy goats Gruff lived happily for many years, eating the lush green grass, and they were able to cross the river whenever they wanted. So sometimes they went on one side of the river, sometimes on the other side of the river. The end.
Who is that?
Not only is it the end, it's also the last story, and it's time for you to sleep. Say your prayers and good night.
God bless. Nobody.